I'd like to call to order the New York City Transit and Bus Committee. Let's get started with our safety announcements.
Your safety is of foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen to the following instructions. In the event of an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and 911 should be called. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell D down the hallway past the elevators. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Nice to see everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. It's great to be back in person. I'd like to get started with our public speakers.
Good morning. We have 7 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that, in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware of the clock in the front of the room and the warning light you will see reminding you that you have 30 seconds left to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Iman Ramawi, and the following speaker will be Charlton D'Souza.
Hi, good morning. My name is Iman Ramawi. I'm with New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. I'm here to talk about my concerns with the reinstatement of shared rides on Access-a-Ride, as well as these in-person meetings. As you can see, I'm an amputee, and I also have lupus, which you cannot see. And I've been an amputee for almost 9 years now because my lupus flared up due to a miscarriage. COVID would also cause this kind of stress and flare up, and it would cost me my life. Access-a-Ride riders do not share the same choices as other customers, but Access-a-Ride customers can't make those choices. I use Access-a-Ride every day because I can't use the buses and trains. And most Access-a-Ride customers, including myself, can't afford to book private cars, whether or not it's shared. Here we are celebrating Disability Pride Month while putting people with disabilities at risk. I also see board members online, but why can't the public also comment online? Why would you put the most vulnerable customers in that kind of situation? I've already lost 35 friends, most of which who weren't disabled, to COVID. They were all healthy, just so y'all know. And I am extremely concerned about this new variant going on. Now, I just did chemotherapy last month, so it's not safe for me to be here. And I'm also fully vaccinated, but I am still not comfortable being in this room, especially when there are only about 20 or 30% of people wearing masks. I'm also appalled that this meeting's been reinstated publicly while not having a virtual option. Having this meeting not be virtual is not fair to people with disabilities and not fair to people who can't always be here in person. And my colleague, Ruth Lorencron, would have been here, except that she broke her foot and can't be here and could not travel on public transportation. And so how is that fair to her? In her words, the disability community is the one minority that you can join at a moment's notice, like she knows. I'm just kind of appalled that we're here and there's a variant going on, and I don't feel comfortable being in this room. We are customers, we are voters, and we are very active. And I don't appreciate being treated this way. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Omar Vera.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United, and I am very, very concerned with subway safety. The MTA this morning said the subways are safer now. No, they're not. I was on a subway train, and I saw an individual pull his pants down and expose himself on 2 separate occasions. And what are the odds of bumping into the same guy twice? It happened to me. I told the conductor, what did RCC do? RCC, the Rail Control Center, told the conductor to signal the police en route. Meanwhile, the cops never came. The conductor opened the door and the guy escaped twice, even after I chased him. The subways are not safe, and again, with this new variant going around, the Delta variant, people are not wearing masks on the express buses. the commuter rails, the subways, the buses. You don't even want to know how many arguments I've gotten into telling passengers to wear a mask. Even when you give them a free mask, they don't want to wear it. And I've heard every excuse in the book. So that's that. And then in terms of these meetings, I feel like all the advocates should have a chance to talk to the MTA executives before the committee and board meetings. So this way it's better, and we're just focused at these committee and board meetings on board agenda items. That would make it much easier for us. And in terms of the Hollis station for, Queens and the whole Atlantic ticket program, Omni is coming out now. And the thing with Omni is a lot of people don't want to use it. And in terms of the Metro cards, the whole Metro card situation, we need cash back in the booths. We need to support our station booth agents, and we need to make sure that all the station agent booths are open. We should not be eliminating them. That is a huge mistake. These people have done so much for us, and they need our support. So I support station agents, and keep the booths open. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Valerie Joseph.
Hey, good morning, MTA Transit and Bus Company Committee. Welcome back after whole 15, 16 months in virtual. Though there's some that are still virtual, but hopefully we can all meet. Well, speaking of which, I'd like to reiterate that maybe we should have both an in-person and virtual option for the public speaker. So if you're not comfortable meeting in person, at least you can give your comments virtually, or, as you all know, handwritten or typed. That should be an option. Second, like I said, I really appreciate the Omni rollout. Despite the pandemic, we managed to get every station in the subway system by the end of last year. Applause. Woo! I'm giving you all applauses for that. And hopefully, like I said, in the next couple of years, I want to see there being an Omni card to replace the Metro card, so we can put 7 days and 30-day unlimited rides on the new Omni card. That's in addition to pay per ride. I'm looking forward to that. Woohoo! And one thing that I'd like to reiterate that's been a while, and which Andrew's definitely an advocate for, is to eventually, once everything's calmed down and settled, we can finally manage to extend the C to Lefferts Boulevard and have all A service the Rockaways. Far Rockaway, Rockaway Park during the daytime, and relegate the Rockaway Park shuttle to late nights only. We already have the late night service like that with the A shuttle between Euclid and Lefferts could be renamed to C. With that said, that's all I have to say, and happy summer. Shall be back in the autumn on my birthday. Thanks.
Thank you. The next speaker is Valerie Joseph, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Joseph. I'm an accessory advocate from the Brooklyn Center for the Independence of the Disabled. I'm also an ACTA member. Soon after the pandemic started, the MTA made a smart decision backed by science. It stopped shared rides for Access-a-Ride, which protected riders like me from the possibility of contracting COVID. The decision to suspend shared rides made sense for one other reason. Shared rides often take too long than a direct trip. When I get picked up now, I know I'm going straight to my destination instead of going on the tour of the boroughs to pick up 1, 2, or maybe 3 people. This saves a lot of time. But now the MTA is making a bad decision, not backed by science. It has decided to resume shared rides, even as the Delta variant has caused a significant increase in COVID cases. It's too soon. We are still going through a pandemic, and we don't know who is vaccinated and who isn't. Is it possible? It's impossible to social distance in a crowded accessorized vehicle. For the safety of your riders, I urge you to reconsider this decision. The MTA tells us one reason to return to shared rides is driver shortage. That's not true. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Lisa Daglian.
Good morning, especially to three board members, Linda Lacewell, Lauren Schwartz, and Robin Mahica. I wonder if your three know and the rest of you guys know that when you guys are in a subway station, aboard a train, and aboard a bus, it's a federal mandate to wear a mask. I know that for sure. But you guys know that? I don't know. But for the past few days, weeks, and months, I've been seeing MTA officers, NYPD, and every single station take no Larry Schwartz, take no Robin Mahica, and take no Linda Lacewell that you could report to Governor Andrew Mark Cuomo that this federal law is not being enforced. That every single police officer, they're not enforcing a federal law. That is that they, as well as myself and my fellow riders, have to wear a mask, not only in the subway or bus and the Staten Island Ferry, but in every single method of transportation. So that said, I'll see you guys in the following meeting.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Daglian, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Dagley, and I'm the Executive Director of the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, or PCAC. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning to testify at the first in-person New York City Transit Committee meeting in more than a year. And what a year it's been. We're heartened that riders are getting back on board and that new post-pandemic records are being regularly set. Hopefully, real numbers leave McKinsey projections in the dust and transit rebounds faster than anticipated. That would benefit our entire region and the larger economy. However, as riders return, they've been faced with delays due to crew shortages and major incidents. We'd hoped that these types of incidents resulting from signal and track-related issues would be behind us, with the extensive work that's been done through the SAP and Fast Forward, and the installation of CBTC. But clearly, additional steps need to be taken to address these significant concerns, and quickly. As far as crew shortages, it is essential that you do whatever is safely possible to staff up as quickly as possible to bring people on and up through the ranks to keep service on time and on track. We understand the dire financial situation that MTA faced, and perhaps the shortfalls were unavoidable. We just don't know. But now is the time to look at every possible tool, whether within the civil service system, through process review, IT and technological advancements, operational upgrades, whatever it takes, to get enough of these essential employees onto subways and buses so that riders will get back onto subways and buses and know that they will get where they need to go safely and reliably and on time. Sarah, this may be your last time before this committee as interim head of New York City Transit. Thank you for your work leading the system through the darkest days of the pandemic. The hardships and losses felt by the transit family were felt by all of us, and we appreciate all the work that everyone has done and continues to do to keep the city moving. Even as we expect to see you at this table again in another capacity, on behalf of riders, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Murray Bowden.
These are notes from my grandson, Daniel. Why are they important? About 15 years ago, Daniel stood at a platform like this at the MTA meeting and asked that there be a station at Yankee Stadium because he lived in the Albany area and he thought it was a good idea. Here, 15 years later, you've got a station there. So Dan's pretty qualified to talk about the MTA and the subway system. He now lives in Brooklyn. He lived in the upper Manhattan somewhere, and he takes the subway. We had dinner with him last Monday in Brooklyn. He took the subway, met us there. We drove. Part of Brooklyn I never saw before. We sat outside and watched the people go by. And Dan tells us, how he and his friends travel around the city on the trains, on the buses. They go into Manhattan and they got the scooters, electric scooters, and they go around. They go to the bars. Why is it important? Dan's generation is taking over. They're capable. They're bright. They love to be in New York. Their friends all come in to join them for an evening in the city. His job now is in Penn Station, the big building above it, back to the office. He goes in a couple of days a week, meets with his boss there, go out to dinner. New York is the place to be for the younger generation. And the work that the MTA is doing to make it convenient is excellent. I just thought you'd like to hear what the kids on the ground are doing.
Thank you. Chair, that concludes the public comment.
Thank you to all our speakers. I think we have Sarah joining us remotely today.
Thank you, Hada. Thank you so much. I just want to say a couple of words. First, obviously, in a sign of how much progress we've made and how far we've come since I took over the interim role, the fact that folks are gathering in a room today is significant progress. And so, we obviously remain vigilant about the Delta variant and other issues and the fact that COVID is still with us. But the fact that some folks are able to gather in a room today is great progress. Although, of course, COVID very much still seems to be with us. Some of the speakers spoke today about mask vigilance. We are reminding people in every way that we can that masks remain required in the system through our signage and through our public announcements. And that will be important in the coming weeks too, as we see what happens with the Delta variant. And COVID is still very much with us, obviously, as we think about our colleagues who were lost, though I'm grateful that we've made such significant progress there. And of course, COVID is still with us when we're dealing with the crew shortages and the staffing shortages that we're still trying to recover from. So on that topic, I just wanted to discuss service momentarily. We continue to run strong service, full service, but we'll, Demetrius, Craig, and others will go through what that looks like right now. Obviously, we've, been very transparent about this. We continue to struggle with crew shortages and staff shortages. That's due to the hiring freeze that was in place during the toughest days of our financial crisis. The MTA has been through hiring freezes before, but I think this was unprecedented in the fact that it hit the operational ranks. So we are absolutely still struggling with that. And we knew that it would be difficult to recover from it. No transit agency wants to ever deal with an operational hiring freeze because every transit agency knows how almost impossible it is to dig out of it quickly. To Lisa and others' points, we obviously knew going into the hiring freeze when it hit our operational forces that while preferable to furloughs and layoffs, it was going to be hard to dig out of. So we've been planning for some time about the things we needed to do to make sure that we were digging out of the hiring freeze as quickly as we could when the time came to lift it. So, we are trying to be very aggressive about filling classes bringing people on for training. Obviously, we'll never cut corners in terms of the amount of training that we're giving people. We'll never cut corners in terms of safety, but we are being aggressive in filling those classes and trying to run more classes than we've ever run before. We're also recruiting folks internally who are doing other work to come back to training courses to train those conductors and bus operators and train operators. And so, I think it's very important to be transparent about this struggle. It will continue for some time. I think on the bus side, we'll be in better shape in the fall, and we're on the subway side, it's going to take longer. And again, we're doing everything that we can, and happy to take questions on that as we get through the meeting. I also wanted to hit on the crime numbers for just one moment. As folks are seeing that in your book and in the numbers that we've provided you with over the last couple of months, same story that we talked about last month. The numbers are really improving significantly, and I'm very grateful to the NYPD, to Chief O'Reilly, to Commissioner Shea, and to the city for stepping up and giving us the officers that we were asking for and that we needed. The numbers have come down very quickly in response, and we're very grateful for that partnership. Obviously, there are still one-off incidents that are troubling to everyone, and over the last couple of weeks we've seen those, but the numbers have improved dramatically, and we're really grateful for the support. I'm sure that there are many questions about other items for us to talk about, and I'm happy to take those. But Hayden, I just wanted to turn it back over to you, and thank you so much. And it's good to see you this morning.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, next we have the work plan. Are there any changes to the 2021 work plan? Sarah?
Hi, Hada. We
How
do
are
have
you?
a change to the work plan.
Okay.
Moving forward, we will be issuing the customers count survey twice a year instead of 4 times a year. We're also merging our survey efforts with Metro North and Long Island Railroad so that we take advantage of a smaller yet more powerful team.
Great,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the change to the work plan? And Robert, second to the motion? Okay, any objections? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. We're like a lazy bunch of group people today. We got to get moving. No, come on. Anyway, okay. Change. Okay, so the work plan is approved. Now I turn it over to Demetrius, who will discuss subways. Morning, Demetrius.
Good morning. So I'd like to provide an update on the performance that provides information where we are currently, as well as a perspective of where we are versus pre-pandemic. Weekday ridership set a pandemic-era record of nearly 2.6 million on Friday, June 25th, or 47.2% of our equivalent ridership pre-2019. Weekend ridership peaked at well over 50% of pre-pandemic levels in June, a sign of the growing discretionary ridership as New Yorkers and visitors use the subway to reach entertainment, cultural, and social events around the city. On-time performance remains well above 2019 levels, when on-time performance exceeded 80% for the first time in many, many years. MDBF, the 12-month moving average for mean distance between failure, is trending in the right direction while fluctuating a little bit from month to month. That said, June did not come without its challenges. Weekday on-time performance was lower than we had seen in recent months. This was due in large part to the crew availability, as mentioned by Sarah, and I'll discuss a little more in detail in just a bit. We also had several major incidents that caused more than 50 delays at that point. So the crew availability issue also resulted in lower service delivered and slightly longer additional platform time, which are indicators of longer waiting times. Additional train time increased slightly from June 2020 as dwell times in stations were longer for more riders returned to the system. It's important to note that this metric remains well below pre-pandemic levels and continues to reflect our ongoing efforts to speed up the system. The end result is that while riders may wait an average of a few extra seconds for a train to arrive, trains are still running faster than they did pre-pandemic. Reality is that the hiring freeze instituted during the pandemic has led to certain downstream challenges. While it was necessary at the time, we now have fewer crews to run service, as employees who retired or otherwise left the agency were not replaced by new employees. This is, of course, much preferable to layoffs, which we averted thanks to the assistance from our partners at the federal level. Subways is now working relentlessly with our partners across MTA and New York City Transit to recruit and hire hundreds of new train operators, conductors, and other crew members as quickly as we can. And we're adjusting our training protocols to accommodate this surge of new hires. While we focus attention on these titles, we're also progressing many of the critical operating titles, such as signals, track, third rail, power, infrastructure. We're adding more trainers, creating new locations for classrooms, and increasing class sizes where it's safe to do so. Subways is also taking action to minimize the impact of the crew shortages on customers. Although only about 4.4% of the weekday trips are canceled due to crew shortages, that figure is higher than normal, and we know that any trip cancellation can be inconvenient to our customers. Our service delivery teams have been redeploying crews and proactively offering overtime to crews to work additional trips. We also continue to monitor ridership closely and aggressively work to avoid cancellations when crowding conditions could result. When it does become necessary to cancel a trip, the adjacent trips are adjusted to avoid the long gaps in service, meaning that affected customers typically will experience no more than usually between 1 to 2 minutes of additional waiting time on the platform. As I mentioned earlier, average wait time has only increased by a few seconds, so the vast majority of customers are not experiencing a noticeable change in service. That doesn't mean that there haven't been real challenges, and in some cases, customers have faced much longer wait times. We will continue to tackle these problems and work creatively with a range of departments to limit these challenges for our customers and to continue to return to the system in significant numbers.
Great. Thank you, Demetrius. Does anyone have any questions for Dimitri? Yes, Sandra.
Hi, thanks for your report, Demetrius. Because of the crew shortages that you refer to and that many people are referring to, and the change in frequency that this means for certain lines, why aren't we putting out messages on the electronic billboards that normal service is not being provided due to crew shortages, and this is not the normal schedule? I mean, just so people don't think a 20-minute headway, for instance, which I experienced recently, is not normal for the line. Shouldn't we be getting that message out?
So our goal is to maintain full service all the time. That's what we target. When we start out the box, we plan on providing all the service. The challenge is at times you may not know exactly where the gap is going to come. You don't know which crew is not going to be available. You don't know if it's going to be a conductor that's going to be paired with a train operator somewhere down the line. So what we've been doing with my partner, Sarah Meyer here, is they are advising via text messages and updating the web when there are issues and some lines wind up going to extended headways. But I don't want that to be the norm. Our goal is to try to make daily service.
Right. So it varies by the day, basically.
Yes, and by the line.
Okay. Thank you, Demetrius. Okay. Yes, Larry.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Got to get back into a routine, huh?
I know.
Madam Chair, it's something for you to consider, think about. It might be helpful. I know it'd be helpful to me. I don't know if it'll be helpful to any of the board members, but maybe within the work plan, we could change the format a little bit going forward, maybe this fall, and have like an executive summary at the front of the work plan. A lot of times it's very time consuming to try to get through these work plans. If you're on multiple committees, it takes a lot of time. There's certain key highlights or bullet points I think all members of the committee care about. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Things like monitoring the subway action plan that we spent hundreds of millions of dollars on to improve on-time performance, right? Track repairs, dealing with standing water issues, and other things, monitoring the progress of the subway action plan that we budget for each year. There was an initiative to address speed issues on our curves, dealing with signal issues, just getting updates where those things are. The on-time performance could be an executive summary, safety issues, right? So you can just pick 4, 5, 6 key items that everyone seems to care about. So at least at a minimum, myself, other members of the committee can sit there and get through the executive summary at least on key points. Other board members may have an opinion on what they would like to see in executive summary, but I just think it might be helpful. Doesn't preclude members from going through the work plan or looking at other aspects of the work plan, but I just think having something that you can go through on the key components of this committee, the key touch points, could be helpful going forward. So
It's a point well taken, Larry. Hopefully we can change and see changes in September. Any other discussions? Okay, let's move on to Greg. Update us on buses and paratransit.
Thank you, Hader, and good morning to everyone. It's so nice to be back here in person this morning. As a reminder where we came from last year, at our lowest in the first week of April, bus ridership dropped 80% to approximately 400,000 riders. However, at the height of the pandemic, the MTA bus system was relied upon for more essential trips than any other transit agency in North America. And today our ridership is at 56% of pre-pandemic levels. This month at the Hometown Heroes Ticket Tape Parade, we got to celebrate our amazing transit heroes and who provided critical transportation when New York City needed it most. Despite the pandemic and the navigation of open streets, social unrest and protests, and our own employee vacancy and availability challenges, our 2020 full-year bus statistics still show positive performance improvements over 2019. Contributing to improved performance was a reduction in traffic and consequent speed improvements. In addition, our partners at New York City Department of Transportation installed 16.4 new miles of bus lanes and busways in 2020, which is more than double the average from the previous 6 years. However, now it is clearer than ever that bus priority is the key to an efficient and reliable bus system, and we will focus our work with New York City as we welcome back our customers. For the first several months of 2021, we continue to see overall performance improvements against pre-pandemic levels. Our customer-facing metrics, customer journey time and additional travel time, remain better in June than pre-pandemic levels. But we are clearly beginning to see a degradation in performance, primarily due to the increased volume in traffic, coupled with our own employee availability issues. As mentioned earlier, operative vacancies and availability have impacted performance. Due to the pandemic and the historic fiscal challenges that resulted, we implemented a hiring freeze in April 2020 on all operating positions. That freeze has been lifted earlier this year, and we have instituted an aggressive hiring plan to fill those vacancies. This year, we have hired over 350 new bus operators and plan to hire at least 800 more by year end. In July, we increased our class sizes from 60 to 80 students and will go to 100 students in September. This hiring plan will allow us to return to pre-pandemic vacancy levels by fall, when we expect another uptick in ridership. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any discussion on buses? Okay, let's move forward. Greg, you want to talk to us about paratransit?
Surely, thank you. Our paratransit customers have returned at a higher rate than any other MTA mode of transportation. Weekday ridership is currently around 80% of pre-pandemic levels, and weekend ridership has seen a peak of 87%. This month, we resumed shared rides, which we suspended as a necessary and temporary response to the pandemic. As New York City moved towards a full reopening and trip demand increases, the resumption of shared ride service was an essential part of our plan to balance vehicle supply with increased daily trip demand. Our approach follows similar steps taken by the Taxi and Limousine Commission, as well as by paratransit agencies across the country, which include Boston, Chicago, LA, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, just to name a few. Also, as we gradually return to normal operations, we are pleased to announce that customers are once again able to travel with guests. As we see in bus, paratransit performance is also impacted by increased traffic volumes in the city and industry-wide driver shortages. The team is closely monitoring these performance issues and working with our contractors to manage them. As we approach the 31st anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act on July 26th, it is important to recognize the work being done to promote equal opportunity for people with disabilities. We have made great strides by expanding the type of trips offered and leveraging taxis and for-hire vehicles. We are also so proud to have provided safe transportation services to our customers throughout the pandemic. We continue to work closely with Cumelo Royal, our MTA's head of system-wide accessibility, to push for more improvements to our services. Lastly, as a result of the lifting of the temporary restraining order, which halted the award of the paratransit broker car service contracts back in May, later in the agenda, NYCT will seek board approval on Wednesday to award 4 3-year estimated quantity service contracts. This procurement is a resolicitation of 4 contracts awarded in October of 2020, which were terminated in December of 2020 to further support New York State's efforts to maximize opportunities for MWBEs and SDVOBs. As a result of these new contracts, we are anticipating an award to our first New York State certified MBE prime contractor for car service, for broker car service, and the first New York State certified MWBE paratransit subcontractor. Importantly for our customers, the proposed broker contract will enable paratransit to gain capacity by expanding the pool of broker providers. I'm happy to take any questions.
Victor?
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for recognizing ADA. It's its 31st anniversary, and always a good thing to talk about it. So thanks. Can you tell me a little bit about the driver shortages and the impact that it's having on the broker service and on demand? Because I know it's a big issue. I know it's happening in Taxi and Limousine Commission, and what the TRO will actually do to increase that availability.
Sure. So, I mean, we're hearing back from both our dedicated providers as well as the non-dedicated providers, the brokers, that they are experiencing driver shortages, as we've seen in, across the industry, not only in TLC industry, but other industries. We are working with them to potentially, and some of our providers have provided bonuses, sign-on bonuses, specifically on the dedicated side. We've seen where we've offered up to a $3,000 sign-on bonus to have drivers come on board. It's been mixed with lukewarm results in that regards. Also, what our brokers are currently, the existing brokers are currently experiencing, is that some of the larger companies are offering, bonuses to the general TLC industry, and taking some drivers over, to those larger companies, the Ubers and the Lyfts. But what the new broker contract will provide, and we're engaging these new companies, is that we anticipate approximately potentially 50,000 vehicles to be, within the pool of four brokers. About half of the existing, I think, more or less 13,000 green and yellow taxi fleet will be made available to some of these new awardees. So we're very hopeful that with the new brokers coming on board and the expansion of the vehicle fleet, that our customers will be seeing a better result. Be seeing better performance.
Thank you. And one last thing on shared rides. I know you put it back in place for a lot of reasons. I understand advocates are upset about that. And you mentioned that other cities have gone back to that as well. My question is, you didn't implement 100%, right? Can you, you're doing a phased-in approach, and can you just talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, I mean, shared rides on the broker servers was never anywhere near 100%. I think before pandemic levels, we were averaging somewhere around 12.5%. Okay. We've taken a guarded market approach because we want to watch how much the ability to do shared rides improves performance, and also want to hear back from our customers. So we've been receiving some complaints on that, and we've been working with our customers to evaluate that. Currently, we're in the neighborhood of about 15% of doing shared rides on the broker car service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We move on. Next, we'll hear from Sarah on strategy and customer service. Sarah?
Hi, guys. So a couple things just to quickly talk about today. In 2020, as you all know, we were really focused on normalizing mask use. 2021, we're focused on normalizing public transit again. So we've launched several aspects of the Take the Train, Take the Bus campaign, but now we're refocusing back again on mask wearing since mask compliance seems to be declining slightly. So we have increased the frequency of our announcements throughout the system. We posted thousands more signs over the weekend. If you see any areas that you think needs more signage, let me know, and we'll get signage up. That said, we're going to continue to work with our partners and ask our friends at MTA PD, NYPD, and other enforcement agencies to please wear their masks in the system. There is nothing more important from my perspective than seeing that happen. Also just wanted to mention briefly the 311 system. A huge thanks to Sarah Feinberg and Commissioner, why am I blanking? This is not good. Commissioner Tisch at DeWitt, who really helped with the 311 app, recognizing subway stations. It previously did not. It now recognizes them, and not only that, it recognizes the mezzanines, the platforms, the directions, so that if you see somebody who is in need of homeless assistance or in need of any mental health resources, you can now literally 3 clicks show where that person needs help and submit. So I really encourage you all to use this system. It's really, really intuitive. So download the 311 app, which is available at the App Store. Also just wanted to remind everyone that Mask Force is tomorrow. If you have not signed up, please, we are still looking for volunteers. signupgenius.com/go/mask-force. And you can see all of our, I know that's a long URL. Let me repeat it again, signupgenius.com/go/mask-force. Happy to have the members of the public and commissioners and more MTA employees join us to hand out masks on the subway and the bus systems. So thank you, happy to take any questions.
Great. Any questions for Sarah? All right, thank you, Sarah. Next,
Thank
we'll
you.
move on to Pat Warren for our safety and security report.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding safety, the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, established a new regulation 2 years ago that requires transportation agencies for which they regulate to develop a safety plan and then update it each year. As part of that requirement, these safety plans and subsequent updates must be approved by the board each year. In 2020, the board approved the New York City Transit Initial Safety Plan. This year's update to the safety plan was provided to the board in their board materials this month for review, and it will be voted on Wednesday at the full board meeting. Now to security. As we have heard several times during this meeting, having our riders feel safe throughout the subways and bus lines is a vital component to encouraging new and old customers to come back to New York City Transit and rejuvenate New York City's economy. To this end, we continue a regime of actions to support delivering a safe system. The improved cleaning and disinfecting of trains, buses, and stations is delivering levels that have been commented upon commonly by our customers as remarkable and inviting. A surge of police and security, as has been mentioned, into the system is having an effect, reducing most major index crimes, which is very welcome and a trend that we want to see continue. There's still more work to do. Specifically, felony assaults were up 63.2% compared to last June, and overall felonies from all categories up 2% compared to last June. For the period of January through June 2021, felony assaults grew 48.5% compared to the same period in 2020, with overall felonies that from all categories going down 29.3% compared to the same period in 2020, which is great news. So at this moment, let me stop here and ask Chief O'Reilly to give us a report, her crime report. Chief.
Hi,
Good morning,
Chief.
everyone. During the month of June, total major felonies in the subway system were up 3 additional incidents compared to June of last year. There were 12 additional felony assaults, 10 additional grand larcenies, and 14 fewer robberies during the month. Subway crime remains down overall year to date. Total major felonies are down 29.3%, with 303 fewer incidents this year. There were 83 additional felony assaults, 130 fewer robberies, and 242 fewer grand larcenies for the year. As riders continue to return to the system, I want to assure members of the board and the riding public that our deployments remain strong and additional officers are working throughout the system around the clock. As always, we want to remind passengers to remain alert, be mindful of their personal belongings, particularly as trains and platforms see increased passenger volume. That concludes my update for this month, and I thank you for your time this morning.
Andrew, wait, I just want to ask thank you, Chief. Any update on the incident that happened the other day on the Q train?
Unfortunately, a very horrible incident. It's being investigated right now. We believe it was a robbery, an attempted robbery. We don't believe it was a hate crime, but hate crimes is still looking into into this. And we do have a subject and a wanted poster. We're looking for the individual.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Andrew.
Thank you. So while it seems like it's great that numbers are declining, I think the important figure is the per capita decline, because there are fewer riders than there were pre-pandemic. So we can compare the numbers, but I think what matters to potential riders and existing riders is, what is your chance of getting attacked? So I'm wondering if anybody can refer to the lesser decline in assaults and felonies versus the percentage per ridership that we have now versus what we had pre-pandemic, because I think that's the really important figure.
Sure, I'll take that. Commissioner, absolutely right. We always want to be careful of comparing apples to oranges, and we want to try to do apples to apples. And it is challenging at this point, given where we are. We can tell you that the numbers overall our cases are down. We know that physical number, not the percent, which is great, and that's what we want to continue to trend with. I can give you more data if you want, but we're trying to our best, given the sort of the span of time here, to give you the best picture possible about what's going on out there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If we can get to that magic number, that's really what we want to hear. Thank you.
Okay. Can we move on?
Oh, just one more comment.
Yes.
Just before we wrap up, let me just talk about cameras for a minute. Expansion of cameras at every subway station is another of the programs New York City Transit is conducting to drive security improvement. As you are aware, we have an aggressive program to achieve 100% coverage of stations by the end of the summer, and we're well on track to achieving that. We are over halfway complete at this point, with 1,006 cameras installed since we started this, at a total of 114 more stations, and about 450 some odd remaining cameras to be installed going forward. That concludes my remarks.
Yes, Andrew.
Sorry. When you refer to camera installations and in stations, are you referring to all fare control areas in a given station, or just one, perhaps, in a given station?
So the program is designed to put cameras at all the strategic points in the station. We're doing a survey of each station, and we determine where the best spots for them to go to make sure we get maximum coverage.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Pat or for Chief O'Reilly? All right, thank you. We move on. Next, we have procurements. Lou, I think, is here to present our procurements. Lou?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. The New York City Transit procurement package includes 3 actions for an estimated amount of $685.3 million. The first action consists of 4 contract awards for the provision of broker car service for paratransit accessoride customers. While this was originally submitted to the May board approval, on the morning of the board meeting, the board was advised of a temporary restraining order brought by one of the proposers enjoining the MTA from entering into new contracts. As mentioned earlier by Craig Cipriano, as the TRO has been vacated, this action is now being submitted to the board for their consideration. In summary, the selection committee unanimously voted to recommend for approval 4 3-year contracts to the following companies: Arrow, Corporate Transportation Group, Century, and Greenpoint Taxi, in the total amount of $655.3 million, as these awards provide the overall best value to the authority. Each contractor will receive 25% of the estimated trip volume. Of significant note, the award to Century in the amount of $162 million will be the first prime contract for broker car service awarded to a New York State certified MBE, Minority Business Enterprise. Additionally, it is anticipated that approximately $172 million will be paid to New York State certified MWBE subcontractors during the base years of these contracts. Additionally, total savings in the amount of $85 million are anticipated over the 3-year base period of the contracts. The second action is a $5.7 million non-competitive award to Simmons Machine Tool for the inspection, maintenance, and service of wheel truing machines and related equipment for axles, wheel lathes, and wheel presses. Simmons is the original equipment manufacturer and/or sole service provider for this specialized equipment. This is a multi-agency award supporting maintenance needs for Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and New York City Transit. The third action proposed is a $23.8 million award to Brookville Equipment Corporation to convert 4 R110A cars to 2 pump cars and 2 generator cars for flood resiliency. This is the result of a competitive RFP process and is funded by a federal grant. The pump trains are part of New York City Transit storm preparedness efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the procurements? Thank you. Chair, second? Andrew, thank you. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. David. All right, now we have David to present for C&D. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon. Construction and Development has 2 procurement actions totaling $7.7 million being brought to the Transit and Bus Committee this month. Both actions are ratifications. The first item requests ratification of a modification in the amount of $5,150,000 to the contract for the station reconstruction and ADA accessibility at the Times Square and Grand Central stations with MLJ Contracting Corporation. The modifications for the deletion of the planned Durst Underpass and the design and construction of the 6th Avenue connector, which is approximately 300 linear feet of enclosed passageways in the Times Square shuttle abandoned Track 3 right-of-way to the Bryant Park Station. The contract originally called for the construction of an underpass under Track 4, referred to as the Durst Underpass, which was to provide a required alternate means of egress from the Times Square shuttle platform through the Durst Building to 42nd Street. However, construction of this underpass presented construction challenges that created risks to shuttle service and to the schedule for completion of the project. The 6th Avenue connector provides for an easier-to-build solution that will minimize impacts to customer service while lessening the risk of impact to the project schedule. In addition, because the owner of the Durst building had an obligation to fit out the Durst underpass, it was willing to pay MTA $7.5 million to be relieved of its obligations for performing the work. The second item requests ratification of a modification in the amount of $2,586,900 to the contract for long-term flood mitigation at the Coney Island Yard Complex with Tully Construction Company Incorporated. The modification is for the rehabilitation of 4 circuit breaker houses located at the Coney Island Yard. The circuit breaker houses are in such a deteriorated state that electrical and mechanical equipment within them has been damaged. The rehabilitation work to the circuit breaker houses was to be done in a future contract, but due to their deteriorated condition, it is necessary to address the situation immediately. During the work, as a modification to this contract allows for optimal work sequencing, minimize disruptions to yard operations, and for the work to be completed approximately 1 year earlier than it would through a standalone contract. In addition, estimates indicate that approximately $3.85 million will be saved primarily due to reductions in general conditions and mobilization costs associated with an award to a new contractor, as well as internal project support costs. These items are submitted for your consideration and vote. Thank you.
All right. Do I have, yes, Andrew?
On the first one, the MLJ, shouldn't the description say Times Square Grand Central Shuttle Station rather than and? Because no work is being done at Grand Central end of the shuttle, correct? For this?
John, you want to take
Yes,
that?
I think you're correct.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
You're
So,
right, okay.
yeah, so it should say
Duly
Times
noted,
Square.
Andrew. Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Any other questions? Jano?
No.
You're good?
I
You can't think of
stump
anything.
Andrew. It's just-
Exactly.
We keep trying.
All right. Okay, with that correction, do I hear a motion to approve? Thank you, Larry. Second, Andrew. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, so now, I think we're done. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, thank you, Larry. Second, all right. Thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.